I'm Katherine Marshall, Vice President of the G20 Interfaith Association, and want to highlight today the importance of a communique that the Interfaith G20 Association has issued, and that is directed to the leaders of the G20 nations, but also to their many partners and to people everywhere. We are deeply convinced that religious communities working purposefully together and with governments, parliaments, transnational organizations, public and private organizations, women and men, young and old, can and will engage forcefully on the full range of global agendas, including particularly the very deep crises that face the world today. In 2021, the G20 Interfaith Forum highlighted the fact that this must be a kairos moment, a particular time of grace and opportunity and movement when we act together to bring about change and justice and dignity and care. In this communique, among the many issues that face us, we have focused on 5. The first is the importance for the G20 leaders who meet in Bali, Indonesia in November 2022, can and must address the financial and economic and social crises that face particularly the world's most vulnerable populations, and above all, those in the poorest nations that lack the resources. There are many tools, debt relief, financial support, but also an engagement on critical issues that these leaders should have at the top of their agenda. Secondly, the COVID emergencies are by no means behind us, and some parts of the world are still very much in the throes of the pandemic and the associated emergencies. So the G20 nations need to keep their focus on the COVID crisis, on the lessons learned, and on preparing for future pandemics. That applies particularly, for example, to education and to the roles of children and others who have suffered so deeply during the crisis. Which brings me to the third point, which is to have a focus on the most vulnerable groups, first and foremost on children. There are many issues, including the millions who have lost caregivers, the drastic effects of the pandemic on education and educational achievements, but many other issues that have led to what many see as the crisis of mental health of children across the world in rich countries and poor. Fourth, the issues of refugees are of particular importance. We estimate now that there are over 100 million people who've been forced from their homes and are in provisional situations in limbo. The humanitarian aid that keeps them going is a vital issue. And finally, it is of utmost importance that the leaders keep the crises facing the environment very much in mind, and that they lead as we look towards the COP27 and so many other fora where they will be discussed. There are many other issues, including racism, including trafficking, including perhaps first and foremost the global food crisis. But these are the areas that we think, that we argue, as the G20 Interfaith Forum should be at the forefront of leaders' minds as they meet today.